Jessica Morgan.
Thank you very much, Mr Deputy Speaker, and may I start where the Honourable Member for Glasgow South West ended by, most importantly, wishing all those who work with us in this place a very merry and restful Christmas and New Year. It's been yet another historic year, and one in which all those who work to support us have yet again, in this place, have yet again stepped up and done so extremely well. There are too many teams and too many individuals to mention, but if I could sneak in a special thanks to Adjournment in PCH from me, and a massive thanks to all those working in constituency offices across the land whose work in these very difficult times is much appreciated. And if I could just say to the Honourable Member for Southend, that includes Sarah, who actually won Parliamentary Caseworker of the Year in this year's awards as well. And as regulars in this debate will know, it's an impossible task to wind up what is 4 hours of debate with 30 speakers on a wide range of issues, a range of breadth of issues, covered so well by honourable members this afternoon. And Christmas is a time for tradition, and it is traditional in this place that the last speech in most debates goes to the honourable member for Strangford. So can I just say to him, following his contribution today, he is a much-loved member of this House. However, a recurrent theme from these benches has of course been the chaos surrounding the government this year and its dismal performance. So on that note, I thought I'd follow on in the footsteps of my right honourable friend for Wallasey at PMQs in offering a new interpretation of the 12 days of Christmas, as it's the end of term. So this year we've had 12 years of Tory failure, 11 ministers at the MOJ since June, at least 10 trips to Downing Street by removal teams this year, as well as 10 different government ministers at the DFT since September, 9 different Tory DEFRA secretaries since 2010, 8 billion unusable PPE masks currently in storage, costing 2.2 million a week, 7 candidates rumoured to have refused the Prime Minister's offer to take up the role of ethics advisor, a post which is still remaining vacant, 6 different steel ministers since the last general election, very important in Newport East. This year alone, 5 different education secretaries, 4 chancellors, 3 PMs, 2 Tory leadership contests, and there was just 1 week, in fact slightly less than 1 week, between the Home Secretary losing her post after a serious security breach and being reappointed by the Prime Minister. I'd also like to mention the number 30, because a constituent explained to me on Friday 30% was the cut to her husband's pension pot after the disastrous autumn mini-budget, meaning that this couple will have to postpone a well-earned retirement for at least a few years. And we must be very clear there's been a very real human cost to this government's failures and a distinct lack of contrition from those who crushed our economy, a point well made by my honourable friend from Nottingham South earlier in her excellent contribution. 12 days of Christmas are also insufficient to contain the number of overdue and forgotten bills and white papers promised by this government. You'd probably need at least 2 advent calendars. I won't list all the missing pieces of legislation today, as that wouldn't be fair to anyone in the chamber, but what on earth is happening with the Victims Bill, the Data Protection and Digital Information Bill, the Animal Welfare Kept Animals Bill, 10-year plan for dementia, there was regulation on physician associates, which constituents of mine are certainly waiting for, the Gambling Act Review White Paper, the Promise White Paper on regional health inequalities, and the Football Governance White Paper. And as my honourable friend for Glasgow South West mentioned, delays in response from departments too. So much legislation and policy seems to have become stuck in the quagmire of chaos that has engulfed this Prime Minister's premiership and his predecessors and her predecessors. This Tory government is a worse joke that you'll find in a Christmas cracker over the coming years. However, on a cheerier note, there have been excellent contributions from members across the House on the theme, as my right honourable friend for the Rhondda said in his inimitable style, called it Broken and Bust Britain under this government, which has been raised by honourable friends for the Rhondda, Nottingham South, Bath, Batley and Spen, Reading East, Luton North, Lewisham East, Stockport, Merthyr Tydfil and York Central, and there's a lot of whips in here today, have rightly highlighted the government's record this year on mortgage rises, the impact of inflation and the cost of living, the treatment of public sector workers, postal workers and more, and the need for this government to, as many honourable members said, to get round the table, energy costs and the lack of a plan after March, and the terrible choices that local government are being forced to make due to government cuts. Delays to the levelling up process was raised by our honourable friend for Batley and Spen, and thanks to her also for her work on online abuse, alongside my honourable friend for Reading East. My honourable friend for Lewisham East was quite right in saying if the government can't make a difference now, they should step aside or press the reset button. As my honourable friend for the Rhondda said, he was quite right. Let's have a general election now. A number of honourable members have mentioned rail services, a very popular choice, I often feel, in these debates. And my honourable friend for Stockport was quite right in his criticism of Avanti, and it also gives me the opportunity to say again, the government's record on rail investment is woeful. Wales has 11% of the rail network and 2% of rail enhancement funding, and the government must do better. My honourable friend for Luton North did a great service to highlight the need to talk about the take-up of mammograms, and we are very sorry for her loss, and I know it must have been difficult to speak of today, but she's done a really good thing. And my Whip's office colleague, my honourable friend, member for Stockport, raised debt collection practices and the use of bailiffs in collecting council tax debt, which I think is important to highlight. Thanks also to the member for Bosworth and Cardiff West for talking about AI, although knowing my honourable friend for Cardiff West, we grew up together, in fact, in Cumbrae. As a point of trivia, I can't imagine he writes many speeches down, and I'll certainly, given his wit and style, I'm sure we could tell the difference if he did use them. They were both right to highlight that issue, the benefits and the threats to AI, and the need for us to engage with this technology and find a balance. And can I wish both the honourable members of Stoke-on-Trent Central and Merthyr all the best with their safety campaigns following tragic incidents, and a special mention to the honourable member for Beckenham for his remembrance of Ballykerry. At this time of year, we also think of those in need, including those across the world facing the threats of malnutrition, persecution and war, and that includes the people of Ukraine who have suffered unimaginable pain and loss this year as a result of Russia's barbaric invasion. But I also want to send our thoughts to the Armenian population mentioned by the honourable member for Congleton in Nagorno-Karabakh, who are facing that devastating blockade. And I would highlight to the House remarks made in the Chamber last week by the honourable member for East Worthing and Shoreham, calling on the UK government to do what it can with its diplomatic links with Azerbaijan to bring an end to both the blockade and the continued repression of the people of Nagorno-Karabakh. And I refer honourable members to my entry in members' interest. At Christmas, we also think of all those facing hardship in the communities we represent here in the UK, and we know this will be an especially difficult Christmas for many of our constituents, and I'm grateful, like the honourable member for Batley and Spen referred to her community organisations, I'm grateful to all the organisations and volunteers in Newport East providing support to those people who need help. And I also want to thank the many emergency service workers in my constituency and across the country who are working hard to keep us safe over the festive period. So on that note, Mr Deputy Speaker, and I hope I haven't taken too much time, on that note, Mr Deputy Speaker, can I say Nadolig Llawen Pawb to all, and to you, Mr Deputy Speaker, given your wonderful Welsh connections. Thank you.
Fawr i chi. Indeed. Leader of the